LeBron James working out in the bubble yesterday as he prepares for next week's restart to the season. He was asked about the shutdown and its effect on the MVP race. Take a listen.
I'm not disappointed because, things happen and things that you control what you can control, and I can't control that. But as far as the MVP race, I think I, show what I'm capable of doing, not only individually, but from a team's perspective, us being number one in the West. There was a lot of conversation about, LeBron can do those things in the East, but if he ever came to the West, what can he do? So, I heard all of that. And to be able to have our team at the top of the Western Conference and playing the way that we were playing at that time and the way I was playing, that's definitely a good feeling.
Perk, you're up first. Who should win MVP?
LeBron James. The body of work that LeBron has put in this season has been remarkable. Forget that he's 35 years old. Forget that it's year 17. He has been a beast, and he was climbing up the chart, and he was on Giannis' heels like a pair of socks. And when I'm thinking of the MVP, I'm thinking of the most valuable player to your team, right? When I look at Giannis is having a hell of a season, but he's the MVP, the most dominant player, right? Because he's dominating in every statistical category. But if I take Giannis off the Milwaukee Bucks are still a mediocre team. They're still going to be a 5, 6, 7, 8 seed in the East. If I take LeBron James away from the Los Angeles Lakers, I don't know where they will be at, because I do know this. First of all, the Lakers haven't made the playoffs since 2013. That was 7 years ago. Second of all, when LeBron James is off the court, the Lakers rank 28 offensively. When he's on the court, they rank second. That's a huge drop-off. So that shows the value that LeBron James brings to his ball club. And then on top of that, this is his first 2010 season. How crazy does that sound? This is his first year averaging 20 and 10. And then during the pandemic, for me to hear one of his co-workers, one of his opponents, Damian Lillard, do an interview, and they asked him, who is this year's MVP for you? And he said LeBron James. That was enough for me, because Dame Dollar didn't even have to answer that question, but he did, and he said one reason why is because LeBron James is in a tough Western Conference, and he's doing it at an extremely high level. So, Max, you could have the floor with all your stats and all your Wilt Chamberlain numbers about Giannis or whatever the case may be. That's all right with me, but I'm sticking with LeBron James.
Well, first of all, if you took Giannis off the Bucks and replaced him with another forward, or took LeBron off the Lakers and replaced him with another point guard, it has to be a guy who can actually play, they're both probably going to make the playoffs in their conference. The reason the Lakers' success offensively changes so drastically without LeBron is, one, because LeBron is absurdly great, no question, and two, because they don't really have another point guard that can run that offense at a playoff level. Let's be honest. It's the way it's just the way it is. Now, let's get down to really what this is about. First of all, let me take your argument. LeBron's argument? What would LeBron do in the West? LeBron, you're number one in the Western Conference regular season, in a conference that the Warriors don't play in anymore, really. KD and Clay are both off the Warriors this year, and Steph missed time. What are you talking about? If the unbeatable Warriors, the one LeBron was lucky to get a single win in against the last time he played them in the finals, were still at full strength, the Lakers clearly wouldn't be number one in the West. But at any rate, let's even put that aside. The wordplay about most dominant, best, most valuable, it's all nonsense. It all means the same thing. Best is defined as who's the best for their team. Best is when you take it all away, who gets you closest to a win? The answer is Giannis. Forget about the fact that he's averaging almost 30, 14, and 6 with a steal and a block efficient points. That he's leading the league in PER, player efficiency rating, again on offense. And that he's better than LeBron defensively. Forget about all that stuff. LeBron gets extra credit for being this kind of point guard glue guy who's brought them all along, and he deserves credit for that. But guys, let's look at this soberly. Any team ever with 2 top 5 players on it is always a powerhouse. You can't find me a single example where those are 2 top 5 players in the league that year, and they're not a powerhouse. So the Lakers are a powerhouse. If you put LeBron and AD together, you're going to have a powerhouse team. Now, does LeBron deserve more credit than AD for that? Arguably, he has the ball in his hand. He's deciding the offense. I agree about his wisdom and his championship pedigree. That helps them. But LeBron and AD are neck and neck this year for best player on the Lakers. The freak doesn't have, like, Middleton's an all-star player this year, caliber. There's no AD on that team.
Max, are you downplaying the Western Conference this year because the Golden State Warriors are not healthy? The same Western Conference that you said the best player in the world plays in than Kawhi Leonard. Are you downplaying that Western Conference? That's what you're telling me?
It's self-evident that without the Warriors, the West just got weaker, obviously.
How? Explain to me.
Without the most dominant team ever, how did the conference get weaker?
What do you mean? Take the Warriors out, right? Even though they're hurt, take them out. You still have the Lakers, you still have the Clippers, the Jazz, the Nuggets, Portland. If Portland was in the East, do you know where they'll be at right now, Max? I'm just saying.
Where do you think they would be in the East?
Let's go back real quick. Let's go back to 2004, 2005, 2006, I believe, right? When Shaq first went to Miami. He was averaging 22 points, 10 rebounds, almost 3 blocks a game, right? And he was dominating. Steve Nash that year averaged 15 and 10, right, for the Phoenix Suns. But he got the most valuable player because he was most valuable to his team and to their success. And I believe LeBron is more valuable to the Lakers' success than what Giannis is doing right now for the Bucks. That's just my opinion.
Hold on, the Bucks got the best record in the league. He has no other MVP caliber player, no 5-star player he's playing with. He's got one 4-star player in the Greek Freak. Brook Lopez ain't hitting his threes this year, let's be honest. Bledsoe's fine, he's a nice player, he's above average, he's not an all-star. LeBron James, not only did they put the right role players around him, Dwight Howard's been balling. Danny Green was the right guard to get, but he has another MVP on his team. Perk, give me an example of any team in history that you can think of in the NBA with 2 MVP caliber players where they're not a powerhouse.
Max, they have the oldest team in the league. They have the oldest team in the league, and they're number 1 in the West. And now the narrative switched because when LeBron James was in the Eastern Conference, it was always, it's the weak Eastern Conference. And he's right. Now all of a sudden, where's this same energy for Giannis? That's the thing I don't get. Like all of a sudden the narrative switch and you're able to move, able to post now, right? Because it's Giannis and not LeBron.
Right.
That's the thing,
it was right then. The West was harder, much harder back in the day. And right now, the West is still the better conference. It is much closer than It's much closer than it used to be. Number 1, the most dominant team, the Warriors, are completely not themselves this year. That's one. They went from the most dominant ever to a non-playoff team in 1 year. So that takes a huge chunk out.
Kevin Durant leave, Max?
The Celtics are better than they were. The Raptors are better. I mean, like 5 and 10 years ago, the Raptors are better than they were. You have more. The Pacers are pretty good. You have more good teams in the East now. The Sixers are good.
Max, listen, when LeBron James was in the East, they had the big 3 in Boston. They had a good Indiana Pacer teams with Paul George, George Hill, Roy Hibbert, and David West. They had the Pistons that was there with Rasheed Wallace. What you mean? That's when he was in the East when they was calling it a weak Eastern Conference. Time out.
That's
how far I'm going back.
You're combining a lot of stuff here. You're combining a lot of stuff. The world is not static. Things change. Early in LeBron's career with the Cavs, no one in their right mind would hold it against him not winning a championship when he had no one else on the team. That's why he made the super team in Miami. The league had changed by the time he got back to the Cavs. So now it's LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love, clearly and by far the best team in the East. With the Cavs, the East was weaker. There was no real competition for them in the East. That was legitimate for people to point that out. And the West was much stronger. Then the West had a super team with the Warriors, and they got even stronger. But now the East has come up in the world, and the Warriors are gone, so the West has come down a little bit.
Max, you saying the second time that LeBron went back to Cleveland, but if I could recall, the Atlanta Hawks had the best record in the league with 4 All-Stars. You can say what you want, but they had the best record in the league, and LeBron swept them. No, I'm just saying.
You want to bring up the Atlanta Hawks for real?
I'm just saying. If
Good,
you
let's
want to
bring
talk
them
about
up.
how
Perk, you know what the Hawks were?
They had what?
You know who the Hawks were, Perk? They were the Bucks without Giannis. Same coach. They were the Bucks without Giannis. When you take Giannis off the Bucks, they're a first-round exit in the sweep. Put Giannis on the Bucks, they might win the whole thing this year.
Giannis haven't won the whole thing this year, so you're right. They are the Bucks. Right. When Giannis gets to the playoffs, he never gets over the